The humid Atlanta evening wrapped around Nia Thompson like a damp blanket as she stepped off the MARTA bus at West End Station. It was May 7, 2025, and the 18-year-old senior at Westlake High School was exhausted but buoyant. Her robotics club meeting had run late, but they'd finally debugged the autonomous rover's navigation code a triumph. That had her dreaming of Spelman College, where she'd start in the fall on a full scholarship. Nia adjusted her backpack, heavy with her laptop and calculus textbook, and started the half-mile walk home to her mother's modest apartment in Sylvan Hills. The streets buzzed with the usual after-hours hum, cars crawling along Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, kids laughing on stoops, and the distant wail of a siren. Nia's earbuds played a lo-fi playlist, softening the city's edges. She was lost in thoughts of her future majoring in computer science, maybe minoring in data analytics when a flash of red and blue lights sliced through the dusk. 3 Atlanta Police Department cruisers were parked askew in front of Perry's Pharmacy, a small, weathered shop Nia passed daily. Its neon open sign flickered weakly, and a crowd of onlookers had gathered, phones out, filming the chaos. Nia's stomach tightened. She'd seen scenes like this before, police swarming, voices sharp with accusation. Her mother, Carla, a nurse who'd raised Nia alone, had drilled the rules into her. Keep your hands visible, stay calm, don't argue. Nia pulled out her earbuds and slowed her pace, intending to slip past the commotion. The pharmacy's glass door was shattered, and officers were shouting orders at a pair of teens handcuffed on the curb. Nia kept her head down, her black hoodie and jeans blending into the evening shadows. "Hey, you. In the hoodie, stop right there." The voice was sharp, authoritative, cutting through the crowd. Nia froze, her heart lurching. She turned slowly, hands half raised, hoping the officer met someone else, but the cops were striding toward her, their flashlights blinding. The older one, a stocky white man with a name tag reading Reynolds, had his hand on his holster. The younger, a lean black man labeled Carter, gripped a notepad, his eyes narrowing. "Me." Nia's voice was steady despite the panic clawing at her chest. "I'm just going home." "Hands up, now," Reynolds barked, his gaze raking over her. Nia complied, her arms trembling slightly. The crowd murmured, phones still recording. She felt exposed, like a spotlight had pinned her to the pavement. "What were you doing around here?" Carter asked, stepping closer. His tone was calmer but no less accusing. "I got off the bus," Nia said, nodding toward the MARTA stop. "I live a few blocks away. I'm coming from school, Westlake High, robotics club." Reynolds snorted. "Likely story. We're investigating a vandalism at this pharmacy. You match the description of a suspect. Female, black, hoodie, backpack, seen fleeing the scene." Nia's breath caught. "Fleeing? I wasn't even here. I was at school all day. And I just got off the bus. Check the MARTA cameras or ask my teachers. Don't get smart." Reynolds snapped. "Turn around, hands behind your back." Nia's mind raced. She wanted to argue, to demand they check her alibi, but Carla's warnings echoed. "Don't argue, or they'll see you as a threat." She turned slowly, her pulse hammering. Carter yanked her backpack off, tossing it to the ground while Reynolds snapped cuffs onto her wrists. The metal bit into her skin, and Nia winced, humiliation burning her cheeks. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, some voices sympathetic, others jeering. "This is a mistake," Nia said, her voice low but firm. "I didn't do anything." "We'll see about that," Carter muttered, unzipping her backpack. He rifled through her belongings, textbooks, a water bottle, a notebook filled with coding notes. Then he opened the inner pouch where Nia kept her laptop. Tucked in a hidden flap was a small ID badge, its sleek design bearing her name, Nia Thompson, and the unmistakable seal of the Department of Homeland Security. It was her internship credential, issued 3 months ago when she'd been selected for DHS's Cybersecurity Youth Outreach Program, a secretive initiative to recruit young tech talent. "What the hell is this?" Reynolds demanded, snatching the badge from Carter. He held it up, squinting at the embossed eagle and the words Intern, Cybersecurity Division. "You expect us to believe this is real?" "What, you're some kind of junior spy?" "It's real," Nia said, her voice steady despite the cuffs. I'm an ADHS program. Call my liaison, Agent Michelle Langston. Her number's on the back." Carter laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Fake ID. Hug kids these days. Printing this crap off the internet. You think we're idiots. It's not fake." Nia's composure slipped, frustration leaking through. "I'm telling the truth. I'm a high school senior, not a vandal. Please, just check." "Enough." Reynolds cut her off. Pocketing the badge. "You're coming with us. We'll sort this out at the station." Nia's heart sank as they marched her to a cruiser. The crowd parted, some filming, others whispering. She caught snippets. Another black kid. Cops always do this. The cruiser's door slammed shut, the sound reverberating in her chest like a judge's gavel. As the car pulled away, Nia stared out the window, watching Perry's pharmacy fade into the distance. Her future Spelman DHS. The life she'd worked so hard for felt like it was slipping through her fingers. At the precinct, the fluorescent lights buzzed harshly, casting stark shadows on the linoleum floor. Nia sat on a metal bench in a holding area, her hands still cuffed. Officers moved around her, some ignoring her, others shooting glances that ranged from curious to hostile. Reynolds and Carter had disappeared into an office, leaving Nia with a sinking feeling that they weren't even trying to verify her story. She kept replaying the arrest in her mind, searching for what she could have done differently. Should I have shown them the badge sooner? Argued less? But deep down, she knew it wouldn't have mattered. They'd seen her a young black girl in a hoodie and decided she was guilty. Her thoughts drifted to the DHS badge. She'd been so proud when Agent Langston handed it to her at a quiet ceremony in a downtown office. The program was highly selective, targeting students with exceptional skills in coding and analytics. Nia had aced their aptitude test, cracking encryption puzzles that stumped most adults. The badge was her ticket to a summer intensive in D.C., maybe even a future career in national security. But now it was being mocked as a fake, and Nia couldn't reach Langston. The agent's phone went straight to voicemail. When Nia had tried from school earlier that week, the precinct door swung open, and a black woman in a blazer entered, her badge identifying her as Detective Aisha Brooks. She was in her late 30s, with a calm demeanor that contrasted with the other officer's aggression. "Nia Thompson?" she asked, glancing at a clipboard. "Yes, ma'am," Nia said, sitting up straighter. Brooks uncuffed her, her touch gentle but professional. "I'm processing you. Fingerprints, photo, then we'll talk. Don't say anything to anyone until your lawyer gets here, understand?" Nia nodded, grateful for the small kindness. "Can I call my mom after processing?" Brooks said, leading her to a fingerprinting station. The machine whirred as Nia's fingers were pressed onto the scanner, each click feeling like another nail in her coffin. The mugshot came next, the camera's flash searing her eyes. Nia fought back tears, refusing to let the officers see her break. Back in the holding area, Brooks handed her a phone. "One call. Make it quick." Nia dialed Carla's number, her fingers trembling. It rang twice before her mother answered. "Nia, where are you?" "It's past 8. "Mom," Nia's voice cracked. "I'm at the police station. They arrested me. They think I vandalized Perry's pharmacy, but I didn't do it." "Arrested?" Carla's voice rose, panic lacing every syllable. "Oh my God, Nia, are you okay?" "What happened?" Nia explained in halting bursts. "The bus, the police, the cuffs, the DHS badge." Carla's breathing grew ragged on the other end. "Stay calm, baby. I'm calling Murdoch Tate. He'll help. I'm coming down there now." "Mom, I'm scared," Nia whispered, tears spilling over. "I know, sweetheart. I'm on my way. Don't say anything until Mr. Tate gets there. I love you." The call ended, and Nia handed the phone back to Brooks, who watched her with an unreadable expression. "Your mom's right. Keep quiet for now. You'll get through this." Nia nodded, but doubt gnawed at her. Marcus Tate was a family friend, a lawyer with a small practice who'd helped Carla with a landlord dispute years ago. He was sharp but overworked, and Nia worried he'd be outmatched against a system that seemed rigged from the start. She thought of the other teens she'd seen at the pharmacy, cuffed and silent. How many of them had been in her shoes, accused of crimes they didn't commit? Hours dragged by. Nia's stomach growled. She hadn't eaten since lunch, but the officers offered nothing. Reynolds and Carter reappeared, whispering to each other before approaching her. Reynolds held up her DHS badge. His smirk cold. "We ran this through our system. No record of you with DHS. You're in deeper trouble now impersonating a federal agent." "That's not true," Nia said, her voice rising. "Call Agent Langston. She'll confirm it." Carter leaned in, his voice low. "You think you're slick? Huh, we've seen kids like you before. Keep lying, and it'll only get worse." Nia clamped her mouth shut, remembering Brooks' warning. The officers walked away, leaving her with a sinking realization. They weren't interested in the truth. They'd decided she was guilty, and the badge her proudest achievement was being twisted into evidence against her. Around midnight, the precinct door opened again, and Carla burst in. Her scrubs wrinkled from a long shift at Grady Memorial Hospital. Her braids were pulled back tightly, and her eyes were red-rimmed but fierce. Behind her was Marcus Tate, a weary man in his 50s, carrying a battered briefcase. "Nia," Carla called, rushing toward her but stopped by an officer. "I'm okay, Mom," Nia said. Her voice shaky, she stood, her legs wobbly from hours on the bench. Tate approached, his expression grim but determined. "Miss Thompson, I'm here to represent you. Don't say anything to the police without me. We're going to get this sorted out." Nia nodded, relief mingling with dread. Tate turned to Brooks, who was nearby. "I need to see the evidence against my client. Now." Brooks hesitated, then nodded. "I'll get the arresting officers." As Tate and Carla spoke in hushed tones, Nia sat back down, her mind spinning. She thought of Spelman's campus, the coding labs she'd toured during her visit, the professors who'd praised her potential. She thought of the DHS program, the late nights she'd spent practicing SQL injections and phishing defenses. All of it was at risk because two officers had seen her walking home and decided she was a criminal. Reynolds and Carter returned, their faces unreadable. Tate didn't waste time. "What's the basis for this arrest?" "My client says she was at school during the alleged vandalism. She has witnesses, teachers, classmates. Have you verified her alibi?" Reynolds crossed his arms. "We have an eyewitness who saw her near the pharmacy right after the crime. She was in the area, wearing the same clothes. And that fake badge doesn't help her case." "It's not fake," Nia said, unable to stay silent. "I'm an ADHS program. Why won't you check?" Tate shot her a look, and she fell quiet. "Officers," he said, "I want the eyewitness's statement, any video footage, and a chance to contact DHS. If you're wrong about this, you're detaining an innocent young woman with a bright future. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen." Carter's jaw tightened, but Reynolds just shrugged. "Take it up with the judge. She's being charged with vandalism and obstruction. Arraignment's in 2 days." Nia's heart plummeted. 2 days in custody. She looked at Carla, whose hands were clenched into fists, tears glistening in her eyes. Tate placed a hand on Carla's shoulder. "We'll fight this. Miss Thompson, I'll request an emergency hearing to get Nia out sooner." As the officers led Nia to a transport van for the county jail, she felt a mix of fear and resolve. The precinct's fluorescent lights faded behind her, replaced by the dark, claustrophobic interior of the van. She was alone now, save for the weight of her mother's love and Tate's promise to fight. But in the back of her mind, Nia clung to one truth. She was innocent, and she wouldn't let Reynolds and Carter steal her future. She'd find a way to prove it, no matter what it took. The air in the Atlanta precinct holding cell reeked of stale coffee and disinfectant, a sharp contrast to the humid night Nia Thompson had been yanked from just hours ago. She sat on a metal bench, her wrists sore from the cuffs that had only recently been removed, her black hoodie clinging to her skin with nervous sweat. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow on the scuffed linoleum floor. Around her, the precinct hummed with activity officers barking orders, phones ringing. The occasional slam of a door, Nia kept her eyes down, avoiding the stares of the 2 other detainees. In the cell, both older women who muttered to each other in low tones. At 18, Nia felt like a child in a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Her mind replayed the arrest over and over. The flashing lights outside Perry's pharmacy, officers Reynolds and Carter's accusations, the cold snap of handcuffs. They'd called her Department of Homeland Security badge a fake, refusing to contact Agent Michelle Langston to verify her internship. Nia's heart ached at the thought of her mother, Carla, who was probably pacing their small Sylvan Hills apartment, calling everyone she knew for help. Nia clung to the memory of their brief phone call, Carla's voice, fierce with love, promising to bring Marcus Tate, their lawyer friend. But as the clock on the wall ticked past 1 a.m., doubt crept in. What if Tate couldn't get her out? What if Spelman revoked her scholarship, or DHS dropped her from the cybersecurity program? A heavy door clanged open, and Detective Aisha Brooks entered the holding area. Her blazer slightly wrinkled, but her posture composed. Nia sat up, hope flickering. Brooks' dark eyes met hers, softening for a moment before returning to professional neutrality. "Thompson, come with me," she said, unlocking the cell gate. The other detainees glanced up, one smirking, the other indifferent. Nia followed Brooks down a narrow hallway, her sneakers squeaking on the floor. They stopped at a small interrogation room, its walls a dull gray, a single table bolted to the ground. Brooks gestured for Nia to sit. "We're finishing your processing," she said, pulling out a notepad. "Your lawyer's on his way, but I need to ask a few questions." "You don't have to answer without him," Nia nodded, her throat tight. "Can I see my mom soon?" Brooks' expression softened again, almost imperceptibly. "She's here, but you'll talk after we're done. Just hang tight." She paused, then added, "Look, kid, I've seen a lot of young people come through here. Keep your head down and your mouth shut until Tate arrives." "Got it." "Yes, ma'am," Nia said, grateful for the advice, though it did little to ease the knot in her stomach. Brooks asked basic questions: name, address, school, jotting down notes. Nia answered carefully, her voice steady despite the urge to plead her innocence. She wanted to scream that she'd been at Westlake High's robotics club, that she hadn't touched Perry's pharmacy, but Brooks' warning echoed in her mind. When they returned to the holding area, Brooks handed Nia a bottle of water and a pack of crackers. "Eat something," she said quietly. "You'll need your strength." Nia took them, her fingers trembling. The crackers were stale, but she forced them down, the crumbs sticking in her throat. The water helped, though it did nothing for the cold dread pooling in her chest. Around 2 a.m., Reynolds and Carter strutted into the holding area, their faces smug. Reynolds held Nia's DHS badge, twirling it like a toy. "Still sticking to your spy story, huh?" he said, leaning against the cell bars. "We called DHS, no record of any Nia Thompson. You're looking at charges for impersonation on top of vandalism." Nia's heart pounded, but she bit her tongue, remembering Brooks' advice. Carter smirked, crossing his arms. "You're lucky we're busy tonight, or we'd be having a longer chat. Sleep tight, kid." As they walked away, Nia's hands balled into fists. She wanted to yell that they were lying, that Agent Langston would confirm everything. But fear kept her silent. What if DHS really hadn't registered her internship yet? The program was secretive, with layers of clearance even Nia didn't fully understand. She'd only met Langston twice, both times in a nondescript office downtown. What if the agency distanced itself to avoid publicity? The cell door opened again, and Nia's breath caught as Carla appeared, her nurse's scrubs wrinkled, her braids fraying at the edges. Marcus Tate followed, his suit slightly rumpled but his eyes sharp. "Nia, baby," Carla cried, rushing to the bars. An officer blocked her, but Nia stood, tears prickling her eyes. "Mom, I'm okay," Nia said, her voice cracking. She wanted to hug Carla, to feel safe again, but the bars kept them apart. Tate stepped forward, his briefcase in hand. "Nia, don't say anything to the police. I'm handling this." He turned to Brooks, who'd returned. "I need the arrest report and any evidence they're holding." "Now." Brooks nodded, disappearing into an office. Tate lowered his voice, speaking to Nia through the bars. "Your mom filled me in. This sounds like a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. We'll get you out, but it might take a day or two. The charge is vandalism, based on an eyewitness who claims they saw you near the pharmacy." "I wasn't there," Nia whispered. "I was at school. My robotics teacher, Ms. Harper, can confirm it. So can my teammates." "I believe you," Tate said, his tone reassuring. "We'll pull your school records and witness statements." "What's this about a DHS badge?" Nia hesitated, glancing at the other detainees, who were listening. "It's real. I'm in a cybersecurity internship. Agent Michelle Langston is my contact. The officers won't call her." Tate's brow furrowed. "That's unusual. I'll try to reach this Langston. If it's legit, it could help your case. For now, stay strong. We're fighting this." Carla's hands gripped the bars, her eyes fierce. "We're not letting them ruin you, Nia. You're going to Spelman, you hear me? This is a mistake." Nia nodded, tears spilling over. "I know, Mom. I love you." Brooks returned with a file. Handing it to Tate. "You've got 5 minutes," she said, stepping back. Tate flipped through the papers, his expression darkening. "This is thin," he muttered. "An eyewitness with no name. No video footage, just a description that could fit half the kids in Atlanta. They're fishing." He looked at Nia. "They're transferring you to county jail until your arraignment. I'm pushing for an emergency hearing tomorrow to get you bail." "Hang in there." Nia's stomach dropped. County jail? She'd heard stories over crowded cells, fights, chaos. At 18, she'd be with adult detainees, not juveniles. The thought made her skin crawl, but she forced a nod. "Okay." Carla's voice broke. "Tate, she's just a kid. They can't do this." "I'm working on it, Carla," Tate said, his tone firm but kind. "Nia's got no record, a solid alibi. We'll make the judge see reason." As the officer led Nia to a transport van, she stole one last glance at Carla, who mouthed, "I love you." The van's interior was cold, the bench hard against her back. The drive to Fulton County Jail felt endless, Atlanta's lights blurring past the barred windows. Nia's mind raced. She needed to reach Agent Langston, but how? The DHS program had strict confidentiality rules. She wasn't supposed to disclose her involvement to anyone outside the agency. Would Langston even help? Or would DHS cut her loose to avoid a scandal at the jail? Nia was processed again, more fingerprints, another mugshot. A pat-down that left her feeling violated. The guard, a bored woman with a tight bun, handed her a scratchy jumpsuit and pointed to a cell block. "Move it, Thompson," she said. The cell was small, with 4 bunks and 3 other women, all older, their eyes sizing Nia up. One, a weary woman with tattoos, nodded at her. "First time. Huh, don't cry. Makes you a target." Nia swallowed, claiming the top bunk. The mattress was thin, the air heavy with the scent of sweat and cheap soap. She lay down, staring at the cracked ceiling, her heart pounding. The women talked in low voices, their words drifting over her. Reynolds and Carter again. One said, "They nabbed my cousin last year. Same deal, wrong place, wrong skin. Planted weed on him. Same with my brother," another added. "They're fishing for quotas. But they got a deal with that snitch, Jamal." Nia's ears perked up. Reynolds and Carter had a history, and who was Jamal? She filed the names away, her DHS training kicking in. Observe, analyze. Connect the dots. If these officers were targeting people like her, she wasn't alone. The thought was both comforting and infuriating. Sleep wouldn't come, so Nia sat up, her mind turning to her next move. She needed to contact Langston. The jail had phones, but calls were monitored, and she didn't want to risk exposing the program. Still, she had to try. At dawn, a guard led her to a phone bank. Nia dialed Langston's number, her hands shaking. It went to voicemail, as expected. "Agent Langston, it's Nia Thompson," she whispered. "I've been arrested in Atlanta. They think my DHS badge is fake. Please, I need you to confirm it's real. They're charging me with vandalism I didn't do. Call Marcus Tate, my lawyer." She left Tate's number, hoping the message would get through. Back in her cell, Nia sat on the bunk, her knees pulled to her chest. The women were quieter now, some sleeping, others staring into space. Nia thought of her robotics club, the rover they'd programmed to navigate obstacles. She'd always loved solving problems, breaking complex systems into manageable parts. Now, she was trapped in a system that felt designed to break her. But she wasn't helpless. She had her mind, her mother, Tate, and maybe, just maybe, Langston. As the morning light filtered through the cell's narrow window, Nia made a silent vow. She'd fight this, not just for herself, but for everyone else Reynolds and Carter had wronged. She didn't know how yet, but she'd find a way. The fire in her chest grew, a mix of fear and defiance. She was Nia Thompson, honor student, future Spelman scholar, DHS intern. They'd picked the wrong girl to mess with. The Fulton County Courthouse loomed over Nia Thompson like a fortress of cold marble, its columns casting long shadows in the morning sun. The transport van's bench rattled beneath her as it pulled up to the loading dock, her wrists cuffed in front of her, the metal chafing her skin. It was May 9, 2025, 2 days since her arrest outside Perry's Pharmacy, and Nia's body ached from sleepless nights in the county jail. Her orange jumpsuit felt like a brand, marking her as something she wasn't: a criminal. At 18, she should have been finalizing her Spelman college plans, not fighting for her freedom. But as the guard led her into the courthouse's sterile hallway, Nia's resolve hardened. She was innocent, and she'd make them see it. The holding area was a chaos of clanging gates and murmured conversations. Other detainees, mostly men, shuffled past, their eyes hollow or defiant. Nia kept her head down, clutching the memory of her mother Carla's voice from their last call. "We're fighting this, baby. Tate's got your back." Marcus Tate, their lawyer, had promised an emergency hearing to secure bail. But Nia's hope was tempered by fear. What if the judge didn't believe her? What if her Department of Homeland Security internship badge, still dismissed as fake by officers Reynolds and Carter, dragged her deeper into this mess? A guard called her name, and Nia was escorted to a processing room where Tate waited, his suit crisp despite the early hour. His graying hair and steady gaze gave Nia a flicker of comfort. "You holding up?" he asked, setting his briefcase on the table. "Barely," Nia admitted, her voice low. "Did you reach Agent Langston?" Tate nodded, his expression cautious. "I left a message with DHS. No response yet. But I've got your school records, signed statements from Ms. Harper and 3 robotics club members, confirming you were at Westlake during the vandalism. We'll push hard for bail today." Nia's shoulders eased slightly. "What about the pharmacy's cameras? They should show I wasn't there." Tate's jaw tightened. "Police claim the footage is unavailable. Cameras were supposedly down. I'm digging into it. Something's off." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Nia, this DHS badge, how classified is your internship? If it's real, it could change everything. But we need someone to verify it." "It's real," Nia said, her voice firm. "Agent Michelle Langston runs the Cybersecurity Youth Outreach Program. I signed non-disclosure agreements, so I can't say much, but she can confirm I'm legit." Her stomach twisted at the thought of DHS staying silent to avoid publicity. Would they abandon her? Tate scribbled a note. "I'll keep pressing. For now, we focus on your alibi and poke holes in their evidence. The prosecution's leaning on an eyewitness, but it's flimsy. Stay calm in there, okay?" Nia nodded, though her heart raced. The guard led them to the courtroom, a cavernous space with dark wood paneling and rows of benches packed with spectators. Nia spotted Carla in the front row, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a navy dress, her hands clasped tightly. Their eyes met, and Carla's fierce nod gave Nia strength. Reporters lined the back, their cameras trained on the judge's bench, not for Nia's case, she realized, but for a high-profile city council corruption trial on the same docket. The media buzz added pressure, making Nia feel like a sideshow. The judge, a white woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, entered. "All rise," the bailiff called, and the room stood. Judge Helen Carver settled into her chair, adjusting her glasses. "Case number to 5 CR 1347, State versus Nia Thompson," she announced. Nia's stomach lurched as she approached the defense table with Tate, the cuffs clinking softly. Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell, a polished woman in her late 30s, stood for the prosecution. Her blonde hair was pulled into a tight bun, and her voice carried a practiced confidence. "Your Honor, Nia Thompson is charged with vandalism and obstruction of justice stemming from an incident at Perry's Pharmacy on May 7th. An eyewitness placed her at the scene, fleeing after the store's door was shattered and shelves ransacked. When apprehended, she presented a fraudulent Department of Homeland Security badge, claiming to be a federal intern. We request bail be denied, as her false credentials suggest a flight risk." Nia's hands clenched under the table, her nails digging into her palms. "Fraudulent," She'd earned that badge through months of coding challenges and background checks. Tate stood, his voice calm, but forceful. Your Honor, this is a gross misunderstanding. My client is an 18-year-old honor student at Westlake High, accepted to Spelman College with no criminal record. She was at a robotics club meeting during the alleged vandalism, as confirmed by multiple witnesses. The DHS badge is legitimate. She's part of a cybersecurity internship. We've requested verification from her DHS contact. The prosecution's case rests on a vague eyewitness and no physical evidence. We ask for reasonable bail. Mitchell raised an eyebrow, her tone skeptical. Legitimate? The police found no DHS record for Ms. Thompson. She's exploiting her youth to dodge accountability. The eyewitness saw her clearly black hoodie, backpack, near the crime scene. Tate countered. That description could fit thousands of Atlanta teens. My client was walking home from a MARTA stop, a route she takes daily. The pharmacy's security cameras should have captured the incident, yet the police claim they're inoperative. We question the reliability of this eyewitness and the investigation's integrity. Judge Carver's gaze shifted to Nia, her expression unreadable. Ms. Thompson, do you have anything to add? Nia's throat tightened, but she stood, her voice steady. Your Honor, I didn't vandalize anything. I was at school, working on a robotics project. My DHS internship has been in the program for 3 months. I just want to clear my name and go home. The judge nodded, scribbling a note. This badge issue is concerning. If it's genuine, it changes the context. Mer. Tate, can you provide DHS verification today? We're awaiting a response. Your Honor, Tate said. We request a short recess to secure it, or low bail given Ms. Thompson's ties to the community and clean record. Mitchell interjected. Your Honor, the lack of verification supports our position. She could flee, especially with this questionable federal connection. Carver tapped her pen, her eyes narrowing. I'm inclined to grant bail, but without DHS confirmation. I'll set it at $25,000. Ms. Thompson remains in custody until bail is posted or verification is provided. Next case. Nia's heart sank, the gavel's crack echoing in her ears. $25,000? Carla couldn't afford that, not with their rent and bills. She glanced at her mother, whose face was a mask of anguish, hands pressed to her mouth. Tate whispered, We'll figure this out, Nia. I'm calling DHS again. As the guard led Nia back to the holding area, reporters' cameras flashed, some catching her in the frame. She heard a journalist murmur, The DHS kid think it's real? Nia kept her eyes forward, her jaw tight. The holding cell felt colder now, the walls closing in. She sank onto a bench, her mind racing. Tonight's in county jail had been hell taunts from other detainees, guards who treated her like dirt, the constant fear of losing everything. Now, she faced more time locked up unless Langston came through. Hours passed, the courthouse's hum fading as cases wrapped up. Nia's thoughts turned to the pharmacy cameras. Tate's suspicion about the inoperative footage nagged at her. In her DHS training, she'd learned to question inconsistencies. Systems didn't just fail conveniently. If she could access the footage, it might prove she wasn't there. But how from a jail cell? The cell door opened and a guard barked, Thompson, visitor. Nia's pulse quickened as she was led to a visitation room, a plexiglass barrier separating her from the outside world. On the other side sat Agent Michelle Langston, her navy suit crisp, her expression guarded. Nia's breath caught. She hadn't seen Langston since the DHS orientation. She grabbed the phone receiver, her hands trembling. Nia, Langston said, her voice low. I got your message. I'm sorry it took so long. Your case caught us off guard. They think my badge is fake, Nia said, her words tumbling out. They're charging me with vandalism I didn't do. Please, you have to tell them I'm in your program. Langston's eyes softened, but her tone was cautious. This is delicate. The Cybersecurity Youth Outreach Program is low profile. Public exposure could compromise our work. I've spoken to my superiors, and we're prepared to confirm your internship to the court. But we can't disclose program details. I'm meeting with your lawyer after this to provide an affidavit. Nia exhaled, relief flooding her. Thank you. But what about the charges? They won't listen to my alibi. That's for your lawyer to handle, Langston said. Focus on staying safe. You're still part of our program, Nia. We don't abandon our own, but we have to tread carefully. Nia nodded, tears prickling her eyes. I just want to go home. I know, Langston said. We'll get you there. Hang on. The visit ended, and Nia was returned to her cell, her heart lighter but still heavy with uncertainty. Langston's affidavit would help, but the prosecution's insistence on her guilt and the missing camera footage felt like a wall she couldn't climb. As she lay on her bunk, the jail's noises fading into a dull roar, Nia thought of the detainees she'd overheard, their stories of Reynolds and Carter's targeting. This wasn't just about her. Something rotten was at play, and she wouldn't rest until she exposed it. By afternoon, Tate's persistence paid off. Langston's affidavit, confirming Nia's DHS status, reached Judge Carver, who reduced bail to $5,000. Carla scraped together the bond with help from church friends, and Nia was released. Stepping out of the jail, she fell into Carla's arms, the weight of 2 days' trauma crashing over her. Reporters lingered nearby, snapping photos, but Nia ignored them, clinging to her mother. At home, Nia showered, the hot water washing away the jail's grime, but not the anger. Over dinner, Carla's homemade meatloaf, she told Tate everything: the officers' lies, the detainees' stories, her suspicion about the cameras. Tate listened, his eyes narrowing. We've got a fight ahead, he said. The arraignment showed they're weak on evidence, but they're digging in. That footage is key. If we can prove it exists, their case collapses. Nia nodded, her jaw set. She was free, but not clear. The trial loomed, and with it, a chance to expose Reynolds and Carter. She'd use every ounce of her DHS-honed skills to uncover the truth, not just for herself, but for everyone they'd wronged. As she lay in bed that night, the Atlanta skyline glowing faintly through her window, Nia felt a spark of defiance ignite. They'd tried to break her, but she was just getting started. Nia Thompson sat at the worn kitchen table in her Sylvan Hills apartment, the faint scent of Carla's jasmine candle mingling with the Atlanta summer heat, seeping through the cracked window. It was May 14, 2025, a week since her arrest outside Perry's Pharmacy. And though she was free on bail, the weight of the vandalism charge clung to her like damp clothes. At 18, Nia should have been celebrating her final weeks at Westlake High, preparing for Spelman College, and diving into her Department of Homeland Security cybersecurity internship. Instead, she was fighting to clear her name, her future teetering on the edge of a system that had already judged her guilty. Carla bustled in the kitchen, reheating collard greens and cornbread, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a faded Spelman t-shirt. Eat, Nia, she said, sliding a plate in front of her. You haven't touched food all day. Her voice was gentle but firm. Masking the worry etched in her tired eyes, Nia poked at the greens. Her stomach knotted. I'm trying, Mom. Just too much on my mind. She glanced at the stack of legal papers Marcus Tate, their lawyer, had left behind, her school records, witness statements, and a copy of Agent Michelle Langston's DHS affidavit. Confirming her internship, they were building a case. But the prosecution's eyewitness and the missing pharmacy footage loomed like shadows. The doorbell buzzed, and Carla opened it to Tate, his briefcase bulging and his face lined with determination. Evening, ladies, he said, settling at the table. We've got work to do. Nia straightened, pushing her plate aside. Did you find the pharmacy footage? Tate pulled out a laptop, his fingers quick on the keys. Got a lead. A contact at the city's traffic division. Says Perry's Pharmacy has a working security system, cameras inside and out, linked to a cloud server. The police claim they were down, but I filed a subpoena. If that footage shows you weren't there, Nia, their case falls apart. Nia's pulse quickened. Her DHS training had taught her to spot digital inconsistencies. Systems didn't just go down without a trace. Can I help analyze it? I know how to check metadata, server logs. Tate raised an eyebrow, a faint smile breaking through. You're full of surprises. Let's get the footage first. But yeah, your skills could be a game changer. Carla sat beside Nia, her hand squeezing her daughter's. What about the eyewitness? They're still saying Nia was at the scene. That's the weak link, Tate said. The report lists a Jamal Harris, but it's vague. No address, no prior statements. Sounds like a paid informant, someone the cops lean on for quick IDs. We need to dig into him. Nia's mind flashed to the jail cell. The detainee's whispers about Reynolds and Carter's history of targeting black kids, mentioning a Jamal. She leaned forward. I heard about him in county. Other women said Reynolds and Carter use a snitch named Jamal to pin charges. They've done this before. Tate's eyes narrowed. That's huge, Nia. If we can prove a pattern, we're not just defending you, we're exposing corruption. He jotted a note. I'm meeting a PI tomorrow to track Harris. For now, we need more allies. I've got a call with a community group, Justice for Atlanta. They want to meet you, Nia. Your story's getting attention. Nia hesitated, her stomach twisting. Attention, like media? The courthouse reporters' flashes still haunted her, their questions about her DHS badge turning her into a spectacle. Carla's voice was firm. You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, baby, but people need to hear what happened. It could help others. Tate nodded. Justice for Atlanta has connected victims of wrongful arrests. Some might have dealt with Reynolds and Carter. If we build a coalition, it strengthens our case and yours. Nia took a deep breath, her DHS training kicking in. Assess, strategize, act. Okay. I single quotes LL meet them. But no cameras. I don't want this turning into a circus. The next evening, Nia and Carla arrived at a community center in Vine City, a low brick building buzzing with voices. Justice for Atlanta's meeting was packed. Families, activists, a few local reporters. Nia eyed warily. The organizer, a weary woman named Keisha Boyd, greeted them warmly. Nia, you're a warrior, she said, her handshake firm. We've got your back. Nia managed a small smile, her nerves easing as she scanned the room. Faces of all ages stared back, some angry, others hopeful. Keisha introduced Nia, and she stood, her voice shaky at first. I'm Nia Thompson. I'm 18, a senior at Westlake. Last week, police arrested me for vandalism I didn't do. They called my DHS internship badge fake, ignored my alibi, and locked me up. I'm fighting to clear my name, but I know I'm not the only one. A murmur rippled through the crowd, heads nodding. A young man, maybe 20, raised his hand. I'm Devin. Reynolds arrested me 2 years ago, said I stole a car. Their witness was some guy named Jamal. I took a plea 'cause I couldn't afford a lawyer. Lost my job over it. Nia's heart raced. Another victim. Same officers, same name. An older woman, Ms. Clara, spoke next. My grandson got picked up by Carter last summer. They claimed he had drugs, but it was planted. Jamal's name came up then, too. By the end, 5 others shared similar stories, each tied to Reynolds, Carter, or Jamal Harris. Nia felt a mix of anger and purpose. She wasn't alone, and together, they could fight back. Keisha promised to connect them with Tate, and Nia left the center with a list of names, her resolve burning brighter. Back home, Nia couldn't sleep. She opened her laptop, her DHS training guiding her. Using a secure VPN, she searched public arrest records. Cross-referencing Reynolds and Carter's cases, patterns emerged: vague eyewitness reports, missing footage, charges dropped or plea deals rushed. Her fingers flew, compiling data into a spreadsheet. If Tate could use this, it might prove systematic misconduct. The next day, Detective Aisha Brooks called Tate, her voice hushed. I shouldn't be doing this, she said, meeting them at a quiet diner off Peachtree Street. But I've seen too many kids like Nia get railroaded. She slid a USB drive across the table. Internal memos. They show Reynolds and Carter have a history of using Jamal Harris as a paid informant. He's got a rap sheet: petty theft, fraud, but they keep him on speed dial for eyewitness IDs. Nia's eyes widened. Why are you helping me? Brooks sighed, her gaze distant. I joined the force to protect people, not watch them get chewed up. I can't change the system alone, but I can give you a fighting chance. Tate pocketed the drive. This is gold, detective. Will you testify? Brooks hesitated. Not yet. I'd be risking my badge. But use this, and I'll back you when the time's right. Nia's mind raced. The memos, her data, the victims' stories. It was building a case not just for her trial, but against the officers themselves. She spent the next few days with Tate, contacting Justice for Atlanta's victims. Some were scared, fearing retaliation, but others, like Devin and Ms. Clara, agreed to sign affidavits. Nia's DHS skills proved invaluable. She taught Tate how to secure their communications, using encrypted apps to protect sensitive exchanges. But the fight wasn't without cost. Late one night, Nia's phone buzzed with a blocked number. She answered, heart pounding. A low voice rasped, "Drop the case, or you'll regret it." The line went dead. Nia stared at the phone, her hands shaking. She reported it to Tate, who urged her to stay. "Vigilant, they're scared," he said. "Means we're getting close." The community center hosted another meeting, this time bigger, with local bloggers and a TV crew Nia reluctantly allowed. She spoke again, her voice stronger. "This isn't just about me," she said, eyes scanning the crowd. "It's about all of us who've been targeted, silenced, locked up for nothing. We're fighting back, together." The applause was thunderous, but Nia felt exposed, the weight of leadership heavy on her shoulders. As the trial date neared, Tate confirmed the pharmacy footage was secured, clear images showing no sign of Nia at the scene. Combined with Brooks' memos and the victim's statements, it was a powerful defense. But Nia knew the prosecution wouldn't back down easily. Ada Mitchell was ambitious, and Reynolds and Carter had too much to lose. That night, Nia sat on her bed, her laptop glowing with her spreadsheet. She thought of her DHS training, cracking puzzles, finding hidden patterns. This was her biggest puzzle yet, and the stakes were her life. She closed her eyes, picturing Spelman's campus, her mother's proud smile, the future she'd fight to reclaim. The threats, the media, the system, they wouldn't break her. She was building something bigger than herself, a movement for justice, and she'd see it through. The Fulton County Courthouse buzzed with tension as Nia Thompson stepped into the courtroom. Her navy blouse crisp but her palms clammy. It was May 21, 2025, and the air was thick with the weight of her trial. At 18, Nia should have been savoring her final days at Westlake High, not fighting vandalism and obstruction charges that threatened her Spelman scholarship and Department of Homeland Security internship. Her mother, Carla, sat in the front row, her eyes fierce with pride and worry, while Marcus Tate, their lawyer, adjusted his tie beside Nia. The gallery was packed, reporters, Justice for Atlanta activists, and curious locals drawn by whispers of Nia's DHS badge and the case's growing buzz. Nia's heart pounded as Judge Helen Carver entered, her black robe sweeping like a storm cloud. "All rise," the bailiff called, and the room stood, a collective breath held. Nia glanced at the prosecution table, where Assistant District Attorney Lauren Mitchell sat, her blonde bun severe, her notes stacked like ammunition. Officers Reynolds and Carter, the men who'd arrested Nia outside Perry's pharmacy, were absent, but their shadow loomed. Nia gripped the table's edge, her DHS training observe, analyze, stay calm, grounding her. Mitchell stood, her voice smooth and sharp. "Your Honor, the state will prove Nia Thompson vandalized Perry's pharmacy on May 7th, shattering its door and ransacking shelves. An eyewitness, Jamal Harris, saw her flee the scene. When apprehended, she presented a questionable DHS badge, claiming federal status to evade justice. Her actions show cunning, not innocence." Nia's nails dug into her palms. Cunning? She'd been walking home from Robotics Club, targeted for her hoodie and skin. Tate rose, his tone steady but forceful. "Your Honor, Nia Thompson is an honor student with no record, falsely accused based on a vague description and a paid informant's lies. We have video footage proving she wasn't at the scene, witness statements confirming her alibi, and DHS verification of her internship. This case is a travesty, and we'll show it." Judge Carver nodded, her glasses glinting. "Proceed, Ms. Mitchell." Mitchell called Jamal Harris to the stand. He shuffled in, a lanky man in his 30s, his shirt rumpled, eyes darting. Nia studied him, recalling the jail detainee's whispers about his role as Reynolds and Carter's snitch. Mitchell's questions were crisp. "Mr. Harris, did you see the defendant at Perry's pharmacy on May 7th? Harris nodded, his voice shaky. "Yeah, I saw her run out after the alarm went off. Black hoodie, backpack." She looked guilty. Nia's stomach twisted. She'd never set foot in that store. Tate stood for cross-examination, his gaze piercing. "Mr. Harris, You work at a gas station across from the pharmacy, correct? Yeah, Harris mumbled. And you've provided eyewitness statements for officers Reynolds and Carter in 6 other cases, all involving young black suspects. Were you paid for those? Harris shifted, sweat beading on his forehead. I mean, they gave me some cash sometimes for my time, the gallery murmured. Tate pressed. Did they pay you to identify Nia Thompson, despite no evidence she was there? Harris stammered. I saw what I saw. Man, I mean, sir. Tate held up a document, Detective Aisha Brooks' memo. This internal police record shows you've been a paid informant for years, often with inconsistent stories. Did Reynolds and Carter coach you to point at Nia? Mitchell objected, but Carver allowed it. Harris crumbled, his voice barely audible. They said she was trouble. Gave me $100 to say it was her. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Nia's breath caught Harris had admitted to lying. Mitchell's face tightened, but she pushed forward, calling a forensic tech to discuss fingerprints at the scene, none of which matched Nia's. The tech's testimony fizzled, adding nothing. Tate's turn came, and he called Nia's robotics teacher, Ms. Harper, who confirmed Nia was at Westlake until 6 p.m. Supported by time-stamped project logs, 3 classmates corroborated, their voices steady. Then came the bombshell. Tate played the pharmacy's security footage, subpoenaed after police claimed it was down. The grainy video showed 2 figures neither resembling Nia smashing the door and fleeing before. Nia's MARTA bus even arrived. The gallery buzzed. Reporters scribbling furiously. Nia's heart soared, but she stayed composed, catching Carla's tearful smile. Tate's final witness was Agent Michelle Langston, who strode to the stand in a Navy suit, her presence commanding. I oversee DHS's cybersecurity youth outreach program, she said. Nia Thompson is a vetted intern, selected for her exceptional coding skills. Her badge is authentic. A hush fell. Mitchell's cross-examination was weak, unable to shake Langston's testimony. Nia felt the room shift. Her fake badge, once a weapon against her, now shattered the prosecution's narrative. In closing, Mitchell doubled down, her voice strained. Even if the badge is real, Nia could have committed the crime. The eyewitness saw her, and her presence near the scene isn't coincidence. Tate's closing was fierce. Nia Thompson is a victim of racial profiling and a corrupt informant system. The footage proves she wasn't there. Her alibi is airtight. DHS confirms her integrity. This case isn't about justice, it's about officers protecting their egos at an innocent girl's expense. Judge Carver removed her glasses, her gaze sweeping the room. I've heard enough. The prosecution's evidence is riddled with holes. An informant who admits to being paid, no fingerprints, and video exonerating the defendant. In light of her alibi and DHS verification, I find no grounds to proceed. Case dismissed. The gavel cracked, and Nia gasped, tears streaming down her face. Carla let out a sob, rushing to hug her as the cuffs were removed. Tate clapped Nia's shoulder, whispering, "You did it." Reporters surged forward, cameras flashing, but Nia focused on her mother's embrace, the weight of fear lifting. Outside the courtroom, Justice for Atlanta activists cheered, Keisha Boyd leading the chant. Nia's free. Nia smiled, overwhelmed. But her mind was already racing. The trial was over. But Reynolds and Carter's actions demanded accountability. Tate pulled her aside. We're filing a civil lawsuit against the officers and the city. Wrongful arrest, emotional distress, systemic bias. Nia nodded, her jaw set. All the way. That evening, at home, Nia sat with Carla and Tate, the TV droning with news of her case. Teen DHS intern exonerated. Questions swirl around Atlanta PD. The victory felt bittersweet. Nia's name was clear, but the trauma lingered. Nights in jail, the sting of cuffs, the fear of losing Spelman. She thought of Devin, Ms. Clara, and others wronged by the same officers. The lawsuit was her chance to fight for them, too. As Carla cleared the dishes, Nia checked her phone, finding a text from an unknown number. You won't win next time. Her blood ran cold. She showed Tate, who frowned. Log it. We'll trace it. They're scared, Nia, and they should be. Nia lay in bed that night, the Atlanta skyline a faint glow through her window. The trial had freed her, but the threat reminded her the fight wasn't over. Reynolds and Carter's corruption ran deep, and she'd need every ounce of her DHS-honed skills to expose it. She closed her eyes, picturing Spelman's campus, her mother's strength, the community rallying behind her. They'd tried to silence her, but Nia Thompson was just beginning to speak. Nia Thompson's bedroom glowed faintly with the light of her laptop, the hum of Atlanta's summer nights seeping through her window. It was June 10, 2025, 3 weeks since her trial victory, and the 18-year-old sat cross-legged on her bed, her fingers flying across the keyboard, her spreadsheet of arrest records compiled with her Department of Homeland Security. Cybersecurity skills mapped a web of misconduct tied to officers Reynolds and Carter, the civil lawsuit she'd filed with Marcus Tate against the officers, and the Atlanta Police Department was gaining traction, but so were the threats. Nia's phone, resting on her pillow, held a chilling message from a blocked number: "Back off, or you'll lose more than a case." Her heart raced, but she pushed it aside, focusing on the data. This fight was bigger than her now. Downstairs, Carla clinked dishes in the kitchen, her voice drifting up as she talked to a neighbor about Nia's case. The news had exploded headlines, like teen DHS intern takes on corrupt cops, splashed across local blogs and TV. Nia hated the spotlight, but it had rallied justice for Atlanta, the community group amplifying her story. Victims like Devin and Ms. Clara had joined the lawsuit, their affidavits painting a damning picture of systemic bias. Nia's trial win had cracked the wall. Now, she aimed to bring it down. Tate arrived, his briefcase stuffed with files. "Nia, we've got a breakthrough," he said, settling at the kitchen table. Carla poured him coffee, her Spelman T-shirt a quiet nod to Nia's future. Detective Aisha Brooks sent more evidence, internal emails showing the precinct knew about Reynolds and Carter's shady arrests, but looked the other way. "It's enough to push for depositions." Nia's eyes widened. Brooks came through again. "Will she testify?" Tate sipped his coffee, his expression cautious. "She's still on the fence, says it could end her career. But this evidence strengthens our claim: wrongful arrest, emotional distress, and a department complicit in misconduct." Carla sat beside Nia, her hand warm on her daughter's. "What's next? The city's not just gonna roll over. They're feeling the heat," Tate said. "Public pressures mounting. Justice for Atlanta's protests are all over social media. The city's hinting at a settlement, but they want it quiet. No reforms. Just money." Nia's jaw tightened. "Money's not enough. We need oversight, training, something to stop this from happening again." Tate nodded. "That's our angle. We reject their first offer, demand policy changes. But Nia, the threats you're getting, they're likely tied to Reynolds' circle. Stay sharp." Nia showed him the latest message, her voice steady despite the chill it gave her. "I'm logging them. Can we trace the number? I've got a tech guy working on it," Tate said. "Your DHS skills could help, though. Ever trace a burner phone?" Nia's lips twitched, a spark of confidence. "I've cracked tougher puzzles. Give me the call logs, and I'll try." Her DHS training analyzing network traffic, spotting anomalies felt like a lifeline. She'd already used it to secure their lawsuit communications, encrypting emails to protect victims' identities. The next day, Nia balanced lawsuit prep with Spelman's orientation packet, her acceptance secure, but her mind split. At Westlake, classmates whispered about her case, some calling her a hero, others keeping their distance. She ignored the stares, focusing on a Justice for Atlanta meeting that evening. The Vine City Community Center was packed, Keisha Boyd's voice booming as she introduced Nia. "This young woman's fighting for all of us," Keisha said. "Her lawsuit's our chance to demand justice." Nia stood, her nerves steadier now. "We've got evidence memos, victim stories, data showing Reynolds and Carter targeted black kids and immigrants. But we need more voices. If you've been wronged, speak up. We're stronger together." The crowd roared, and Nia felt a surge of purpose, though the weight of their trust pressed on her. Afterward, Devin pulled her aside. "My cousin got a call last night, someone telling him to shut up about the lawsuit. You getting those too?" Nia nodded, her stomach knotting. "Yeah, we're rattling them. Keep logging the calls." "Okay." The threats escalated that week. Nia's apartment mailbox was vandalized. Red paint spelling "quit." Carla called Tate, who filed a police report. Though Nia doubted it'd help, using her DHS skills, she analyzed the threatening text's metadata, tracing one to a burner phone bought at a gas station near Reynolds precinct. It wasn't proof, but it was a lead. She shared it with Tate, who passed it to his PI. Meanwhile, Nia's DHS coursework resumed online modules on phishing defenses and SQL injections. Agent Michelle Langston emailed, her tone formal but warm, "You're still our star intern, Nia. Focus on your studies, but know we're proud." The words bolstered Nia, though Langston's silence on the lawsuit reminded her DHS wouldn't get involved publicly. The lawsuit's first hearing loomed, and Tate prepped Nia at his cramped downtown office. "We're deposing precinct supervisors next week," he said. Brooks' emails show they ignored complaints about Reynolds and Carter for years. "If we can get one supervisor to crack, it's a domino effect." Nia nodded, her mind racing. "What about Jamal Harris? He admitted in court he was paid to lie about me. He's in hiding," Tate said. "But RP's tracking him. If we find him, we can force a statement tying him to the officer's scheme." That night, Nia spoke at another Justice for Atlanta rally, her voice carrying over a crowd of hundreds. Reporters filmed, and social media buzzed with hashtag Justice for NIA. She felt exposed but empowered, her words fueled by the faces around her families, students, elders, all demanding change. As she stepped down, Keisha hugged her. "You're a force, Nia. Keep going." But the cost was mounting. Nia woke to nightmares of her arrest, the cuffs biting her wrists, Reynolds' smirk haunting her. Carla noticed her daughter's sleepless eyes, urging her to see a counselor, but Nia brushed it off. "I'm fine, Mom. I have to finish this." Her DHS training helped her compartmentalize, but the stress gnawed at her. A week later, Tate called with news that jolted her awake. "Brooks just dropped a bomb. She's got recordings off the record talks with a precinct captain admitting Reynolds and Carter were protected for their crime stats. She's ready to testify if we guarantee her safety." Nia's breath caught. "That's huge. Can we protect her?" "We're working on it," Tate said. "But here's bigger news. The city's offering a $500,000 settlement, split among you and the other plaintiffs. They're balking at reforms, though." Nia's heart sank. "We can't take it without changes." "What's the point if they keep doing this?" "Exactly," Tate said. "We counter with a demand for independent oversight, mandatory bias training, and a victim compensation fund. If they refuse, we go to trial." Nia agreed, her resolve steeling. The next day, she analyzed the burner phone's call logs. Pinpointing a second purchase linked to a known associate of Reynolds, she sent the data to Tate, who grinned. "You're a damn detective, Nia." As the hearing neared, Brooks met them at a quiet park, her face tense. "Reynolds and Carter are under internal investigation," she said. "The DA's looking at criminal charges, conspiracy, obstruction. Your lawsuit's forcing their hand." Nia's eyes widened. "Charges, for real?" Brooks nodded. "Your trial exposed them. But the lawsuit's the nail in the coffin. Keep pushing, Nia. You're making history." That night, Nia lay awake, the city's hum a distant comfort. The threats, the rally crowds, the data. She was juggling a war. But Spelman's orientation was days away, her DHS coursework a beacon of her future. She thought of Carla's sacrifices, the community's trust, Brooks' risk. They'd tried to silence her, but Nia Thompson was louder than ever, and she'd fight until the system bent. The Atlanta skyline glittered through the window of Nia Thompson's dorm room at Spelman College, the warm August air carrying the scent of magnolias and possibility. It was August 15, 2025, and Nia, now 19, stood unpacking her belongings, her navy Spelman sweatshirt draped over a chair. 3 months had passed since her trial victory, since the civil lawsuit against officers Reynolds, Carter, and the Atlanta Police Department had reshaped her life and the city's future. The journey from a wrongful arrest to a catalyst for change had tested every ounce of her resolve. But as she arranged her laptop and Department of Homeland Security internship badge on her desk, Nia felt a quiet pride. She'd fought, and she'd won not just for herself, but for a community long silenced. The lawsuit's final hearing in July had been a crucible. Nia sat in the Fulton County Courthouse, her mother Carla beside her, their hands clasped. Marcus Tate, their lawyer, presented a mountain of evidence. Detective Aisha Brooks' recordings of a precinct captain admitting Reynolds and Carter's misconduct was ignored, Nia's data analysis of their arrest patterns, and affidavits from victims like Devon and Ms. Clara. The city's lawyers, sweating under public pressure, had offered a settlement, but Nia and the plaintiffs held firm, demanding reforms. The judge, moved by Brooks' testimony and the community's protests led by Justice for Atlanta, ruled in their favor. The city agreed to a $1.2 million compensation fund for victims, independent oversight of police practices, mandatory bias training, and stricter informant regulations. Nia's heart had soared as Carla hugged her, tears streaming, the gallery erupting in cheers. But the real turning point came days later, when Jamal Harris, the informant who'd lied about Nia, surfaced. Facing his own charges, he took a plea deal, testifying that Reynolds and Carter had paid him to fabricate IDs in over a dozen cases. His confession, combined with Brooks' evidence and Nia's lawsuit, triggered a DA investigation. In early August, Reynolds and Carter were arrested charged with conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and perjury. Their mugshots flashed across channel to news. The headline stark, "Corrupt Atlanta Cops Face Prison After Teens Fight Exposes Lies." Nia watched from Carla's living room, her chest tight with relief and sorrow. Justice was bittersweet. She took no joy in their ruin, but accountability was non-negotiable. The officer's trial was swift. Brooks testified, her voice steady despite the precinct's backlash, detailing their scheme to pad arrest stats by targeting Black and immigrant youth. Harris' tearful account sealed their fate. The jury convicted both men, sentencing them to 7 years each, their badges stripped. Nia sat in the back of the courtroom, Carla's hand in hers, feeling the weight of her role. Her arrest, once a nightmare, had sparked a reckoning. The mayor held a press conference, calling the reforms a new chapter for Atlanta. Crediting Nia's courage, she winced at the spotlight, but hoped the changes were real. Now, at Spelman, Nia was starting that new chapter herself. Her dorm, a cozy space with posters of Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison, hummed with her roommate Chenis's chatter. A sociology major, Chenis recognized Nia from the news but kept it cool, asking only, "You good with sharing the mini fridge?" Nia laughed, grateful for the normalcy. Orientation week was a whirlwind. Campus tours, icebreakers, and talks about Spelman's legacy of Black excellence. Classmates whispered about Nia's case, some approaching her with awe, others with questions she deflected. "I'm just here to learn," she'd say, though her DHS badge, tucked in her wallet, reminded her she was more. Her DHS internship had resumed. Agent Michelle Langston assigning her a specialized project, analyzing cyber threats to local government systems, a nod to Nia's trial-honed resilience. "You've got a rare mind, Nia," Langston said in a video call, her tone proud. "What you did in Atlanta, most adults couldn't handle that. We're investing in you." The project meant late nights coding, but Nia thrived. Her Spelman class's intro to computer science, African diaspora studies fueling her drive. She'd earned a full ride. The lawsuit's settlement easing Carla's bills and funding a college savings account. Financially secure, Nia felt free to dream bigger. Yet the scars lingered. Nightmares of her arrest cuffs, Reynolds' smirk woke her some nights, her heart racing. Carla had insisted on therapy, and Nia, reluctant at first, found solace in weekly sessions, unpacking the trauma of jail and the threats that had followed her lawsuit. The vandalism to her mailbox, the chilling texts she'd traced one to a Reynolds associate, a lead Tate used to secure restraining orders. The harassment had stopped, but Nia stayed vigilant, her DHS skills now a shield. Justice for Atlanta honored her at a community center gala, a modest event where Keisha Boyd presented Nia with a Courage Award. Standing on stage, Nia's voice trembled. "I was just a kid walking home," she said, eyes on the crowd of families, activists, and Brooks, who'd come quietly. "But when the system tried to break me, you all lifted me up. This award's for every voice that's been silenced." The applause was thunderous, and Carla, in the front row, wiped tears. Brooks approached later, her smile rare. "You changed the game, Nia." I'm proud to know you. Nia hugged her, grateful for the detective's risk. High school graduation had been a blur. Nia crossing Westlakes, staged to cheers, her diploma a testament to her grit. Now, at Spelman, she walked the quad at dusk, the historic buildings aglow. Her phone buzzed a text from Tate, city's implementing oversight board. You did this, Nia smiled. Pocketing her phone, she thought of Devon, whose record was expunged, and Miss Clara, whose grandson received settlement funds. Their victories were hers, too. Pausing by the library, Nia breathed in the honeysuckle air, her DHS badge a quiet weight in her wallet. A year ago, she'd been cuffed, her future dangling by a thread. Now, she was a Spelman scholar, a DHS intern, a voice for change. The threats, the courtroom battles, the sleepless nights they'd forged her into someone stronger, someone who knew one girl could shift a city's soul. Classes started tomorrow, and with them, her DHS project. Maybe a student activist group inspired by justice for Atlanta. The road ahead was uncertain, but Nia welcomed it. She looked up at the stars, the Atlanta skyline a backdrop to her dreams. Reynolds and Carter were behind bars, the system bending under her push. Carla's love, Tate's strategy, Brooke's courage, the community's roar, they'd carried her here. Nia Thompson, once a wrongfully accused teen, now stood in the light of a future she'd fought for. Ready to code, learn, and lead. And in that light, she saw a truth. Justice wasn't just served, it was built, voice by voice, until the walls of silence crumbled.